Welcome to episode 17 of Nerds and Friends. Today we have actress Vanessa Nottingham joining us today. Very excited to have you on the podcast. My co-host Carey DuVal, as always, looking astute and ready to help out.
Hi, how's it going?
Hello. So Vanessa, tell us about acting and writing and what your passions are, what things you're working on currently for the viewers.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I started out acting as a child in South Florida, in Miami area. My parents put me in acting classes when I was like 7 because I was super shy. And they're like, this kid needs to talk. Like she's not talking and she doesn't know how to read. So they're like, okay, let's put her in acting classes. And it was like film and television, which
Oh wow.
there's just like a little school that they found in that area in Miami. So I started taking classes there, and then jokes on them. I started really loving it. And I saw like I was watching Harry Potter and I saw those kids on there and I was like, you know what? I'm doing that. Like I could do that for a career. So that's how it started. So then I got some agents, I did commercials, some films in Miami. Then I got into theater later on. I did vocal lessons, singing lessons, dance lessons, all that jazz.
Wow.
And then eventually I went to college for acting in Florida as well. And then
Nice.
I just moved here in October.
That's
Very
awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
What's your alma mater in Florida?
UF.
UF, huh?
Yeah,
Nice.
University of Florida. Go Gators. I'm actually wearing their sweatpants right now.
There you
Nice.
go. I love it. Now,
That's
Miss
awesome.
Nottingham, it must have been kind of difficult for you to get out from under the shadow of your uncle, who has been taxing the residents of Sherwood Forest for.
Yes. You know, we don't have the best reputation, but I'm good friends with Robin. So
Perfect. It's
helping
about bridging it's about bridging those gaps and burying old hatchets.
yeah. I promise I'll show you my voter registration card.
Nice.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm out here and I've been very fortunate to just hit the ground running. I met amazing people. I've been booking, knock on wood.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, I'm having a great time. And I've always known being an actor, I'm not just an actor, I'm an artist.
Yeah.
So I believe in all sorts of facets of the industry. And so I love writing, I love directing, I like producing. So I knew coming out here that that's what I also needed to continue doing. Anytime I wasn't booking something, what are you going to do? You're going to write. You're
Yes.
going to direct. You're going to produce your own content, whether that's going to YouTube or that's going to festivals. You're going to do something because you're not just going to wait for someone to offer you that opportunity.
Yep.
So,
That's the
yeah,
perfect attitude
yeah,
to
that's
make
what
it. That's
I do.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, not to throw this out there too much, but we met on the film Seeking Justice that we're both working on. And a few months before I joined that project, I started taking acting classes for the first time. So now that I'm finally understanding what goes into that and how much effort and preparation and thought there is, they're so complex. So when I saw you doing the auditions and the table reads, I was like, wow, you really know your stuff. So I was just super impressed. And now that I understand how much work goes into that, I was like, wow, Vanessa's really bringing her A game. So I was just really impressed with how much you prepared for the role and how much energy you put into every single take and read. I thought that was really, really cool.
Oh, thank
So
you.
I can't wait for the viewers to see your performance when the movie is finished.
Yeah, me too.
What are some of the things that you do in your process to prepare for roles? I was just curious, like what are some of the things you do that are really, paramount to your performances?
Yeah, well, each role is different, but it's always a lot of research. And I'm also very psychological based.
Nice.
So trying to understand that character. So whether I'm doing research online or reading books, going through history books as well, because you never know what you're gonna find.
Yeah.
Acting, I believe, I'm not an actor to be an actor. I'm doing it for a human basis, right? So I believe acting, the soul, I'm trying to figure out the proper wording, but I feel like the essence of acting is being a human.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And how do you do that? by not just watching movies,
Yeah,
because everyone's being an actor there, but
right.
you do that through reading, through research, by observing people in everyday life.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what I do. Like for one role that I had to play a 10-year-old, and I was 20 at the time. And so I would go to like parks, or I would even, it was during Halloween time. So I went trick or treating. I dressed up as Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, and
Nice.
I put my hair in like little ponytails, whatever, pigtails, and I went trick or treating, and I observed how children react. I also would FaceTime my nephews and see how they interact with each other to kind of get a feel for the mannerisms, their how they're thinking. They're very scatterbrained. They move from one subject to another very quickly. So just finding those nuances and then practicing that. So either I write that down or I record it if it's not creepy, right? Um, and then I try to replicate that.
Wow.
Yeah, and then it's just your basic research of studying the script, going through the script, seeing, okay, she's this this age, she's from here. Oh, I wonder if she's from Louisiana during 1885. What's the history behind it? What kind of clothing was she wearing? How does that make me as the actor feel
Mhm.
in that clothing? So that's going to affect my movement. That's going to affect my thought, because if I'm uncomfortable, I'm going to get rowdy. I'm going to
Yeah.
get, ticked off in a sense. So a bunch of these, it's a lot of research and a lot of playing and experimenting in your room and looking ridiculous.
Mhm.
That's the fun of it, though. But there's just so many elements you have to juggle in your brain. Like, it's so impressive how you do that, and it's something that I really appealed to me with acting classes. I was like, there's so many variables to consider, like you were saying, in the nuance. It's so cool.
I
It's just
think
so cool.
being a writer though, it helps a lot because, as I don't know if you're finding that, but knowing how to write a script and what your intention is as a writer, a screenwriter,
Yeah.
helps you kind of figure out what what was, as an actor, what was the intention of the screenwriter, and how do I portray that as honestly as possible.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, I hope that
I-
comes through, because that's oh, go ahead, Carey.
No, no, like that's a great point. I was actually going to say that I was wondering how your multimedia discipline has kind of like added to that, because you are a dancer and a singer, and so you have more of a baseline for vocal quality and tone and like the way people move in different environments that that seems like it would factor into basically how do those cross up for you, like how does that help your writing and your acting?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to talk more about the film side, if that's okay, like
Yeah.
filmmaking as a director and
Absolutely.
also a camera operator. As soon as I started going behind the scenes, working as crew for the director, I found that I had a stronger intention as an actor. And I knew I could figure out more. I was more aware of what was happening around me, not just like, oh my god, I'm in the character. She wants this in the scene, blah blah blah. No, like I knew that the director told me to stand here, and the reason is because of this, and that the camera that they're using is a close-up camera, close-up lens, like or like a 50 millimeter. So 50 millimeter is going to be like waist up. So I knew that, okay, I can't be that big, but I can go a little big. I can't have that much movement, but I can have a little movement. And then, oh, okay, they moved to an 85 millimeter lens. It's all here.
Yep.
Stuff like that. Vocal quality, yes. As a more, I guess singing helps, but as actors, we also have to take voice lessons. So not just dialects, but learning how to use your whole range and doing weird exercises to get you there, working with your nasal resonance and all that.
Yeah.
No, I love that. One of my favorite videos that a friend of mine ever sent me was Sir Ian McKellen back in like the 70s, talking about the Macbeth monologue at the end of Macbeth, and he's sitting there and he's breaking down. It's not a very long monologue, but he's breaking down how the lines inform where the character is, and the wording reflects what the character's mentality is. And I mean, obviously, Ian McKellen speaks with that brilliant iambic pentameter that's like so ingrained you can hear it when he's Magneto. Yeah. that like it seems very interesting to me that you can discover a voice within like the line and the wording of a character from what you've been making it sound like.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's, I don't know if you know the IPA, like infinite, IPA, it's the phonetic language or phonetic alphabet. So we had to study that too. And that's just like dissecting word for word, trying to, like, if I speak a certain way, I'm considered Gen Am, General American. But so I would do my IPA, the phonetic alphabet, write it over my lines in my General American speech. But if the role calls for someone from the South, then I have to go and do how it would sound in the South.
And figure out that region, because Texas sounds different than Appalachia and so on.
Yep, absolutely.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. And it's fun because it does influence the character. It really does. It creates a whole different persona sometimes just because you draw out your R.
Yeah. Because it disconnects you from you and lets you play this other character, which is just such a fun feeling, you know? Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So what was your first experience with writing? Like, did you get into that? You mentioned you got into it during your acting career. What's kind of your writing process, or what kind of topics interest you, or themes or genres?
Yeah, I'm still trying to find my way.
Okay.
But I do love fantasy. Awesome. And also I love writing strong female characters. So I'm really big right now into exploring the female gaze. Ooh. And how you do that through writing, through directing, through the action, through the cinematography, everything possible, all the elements, rather than a male gaze.
Yeah.
And the great example that I always think about is if you look at Suicide Squad, the first one,
yes,
the OG, and you see how Harley Quinn was personified there. I mean, it was just like zone in on her butt, like all beauty right there. And then you see Birds of Prey, which was
I love Birds of Prey. That was such a great movie. Such a good movie.
Yeah, and then you see that, and she's like this badass character, and like people still like it without having to see, the beauty side of it necessarily. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Quick shout out to my friend Sean Ballantine, who did stunts on that movie. The action scenes in that movie, they killed it. So shout out to Sean. You're awesome, man.
Love you, Sean.
Yeah. That's sick. I know an amputee that did stunts on the first Suicide Squad.
Oh, really?
He's an arm amputee, so he's one of the monsters that like got an arm chopped off. Like he's probably in there for maybe a quarter of a second. So, but I think even he would agree that like like not just shooting with Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey is such an interesting way to actually go forward with a character that it was so underutilized and underdone in Suicide Squad. Well, not even underutilized, it's just neglected in a lot of ways with the writing, like a lot of it was. But Margot Robbie gave an excellent performance. And then in Birds of Prey, you actually got to see the psychology behind her, and they did a really good job of like, she's not just nuts, she's not just lovesick, she's like Harley Quinn's supposed to be this like double PhD psychologist who fell in with an intensely manipulative narcissist. Like that's really well put across in the whole arc of that movie, and it's done great.
Yeah, I think it's the best DC film that's come out in the last 20 years. I haven't seen a better one than Birds of Prey.
I dig it.
Yeah,
I think I would agree.
Yes. I was really bummed when I heard that they were on HBO Max editing it down to PG-13 and cutting the movie down. Yeah.
Don't do that.
I know. They were like, because I guess it's being underviewed, and I was like, why? Like that, I don't. That's a different tangent. Sorry, I live next to a fire station.
The blood stays in the picture. Okay.
I live next to a fire station, so I muted myself for a second because there were sirens. That's always fun.
Me too. So that always pops up.
Oh yeah. Fun
if
stuff.
I can backtrack a bit,
Yes.
Vanessa, what kind of fantasy do you like? Because fantasy is such a broad genre. Like, what's your passion?
Gosh, I used to, as a few years back, I was writing like scripts about like, because I was so into Harry Potter. so magical realism, or that's a different topic, but magic. And then also playing with magical realism. But just all sorts of magic and wizards, and to the point where I was totally copying Harry Potter. So then, I mean, I've recently have backtracked, and I do a lot more satire stuff.
Oh,
so
cool.
I wrote, and I had a co-writer as well. And it's now on YouTube, so shout out Public Policy. It's a mini series that I co-wrote and directed and acted in it. And
awesome.
It's a political satire. And so that's kind of my niche, satire, making fun of politics, and then also incorporating strong female characters. I'm still trying to get into a better writing habit, writing daily.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult, especially since I'm fortunate I'm booking, so I don't have to spend so much time doing that. But when I am, I usually try to spend a good 2 hours in the morning, just, writing it out and then putting it away for a few hours and then coming back to it right before bed.
That's a good process right there. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize when you're booking stuff, the hours that go into that. Like I can't imagine writing on a day you're working on set. It's just incredibly hard.
Because you're trying to stay in that mindset. And then also I always feel like being on set is a great networking opportunity.
Totally.
To meet people, to make friends. I love learning about people. Maybe that's why I'm an actor.
Yeah.
But I have such an interest in people's lives and what they've been through and how they're doing. So I like to really take my time when I'm not acting on set to talk to people. So I won't bring my laptop or a book usually.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, like even in the couple of days that I was, on set with you guys before I had to drop out, I loved just sitting around talking with you guys because everyone had such an interesting backstory or where they came from, or like a whole generation of experience that like led up to where they are right now. And I could see that really helping as like you being a people person and also being a director on top of writing and acting. That sounds like a really good skill set to have. Like people talk about leadership all the time, and leadership has become kind of this vague term. There's some people that use it really well. There's some people that leadership is synonymous with management, which I think is a fallacy. But like actually knowing people and knowing what makes people, not even what makes people tick, like knowing people personally on a level is a really great way of, for me, having that soft leadership influence on people. And I want to know what your experience is in that same regard.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, 100%. From the directing side, I've learned really quick that you have to get to know every single person you're working with.
Yep.
There was a time in one of the things that I was directing. We were directing for a few months. I was directing for a few months. It was a feature film.
Nice.
And one of the people I was working with on set was kind of slacking in a sense. I felt like every day I was having to have a conversation with them about, hey, we are really behind schedule, and I'm seeing that sometimes it's coming from this department. What can I do to help? Like, what can I do to help you? Yep. Which I thought was the right question to ask
Yeah.
until I didn't realize that maybe I should have gotten further with the questioning and seeing what was actually happening with them personally in their lives for me to be more understanding, and for me then to take another set of action of, okay, I see that you're having a lot of trouble in school, or you're having trouble at home right now. Okay, I hear you. I'm going to do now what I can as the director on my end and as a producer to take a lot of that responsibility that you have and even that out amongst the other departments so that you can take the time to handle what's happening at home. Because me just going every day saying, what can I do to help? It was a sense of like because I started to learn more about them, they had not a sense of, I guess, ego got in the way of like, oh, I can handle it. Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Until we really got to the meat of the question and found that answer of, yeah, I'm really suffering right now. And like, I don't want to give up the position, but I'm telling you I'm suffering. So then that's where I can come in and be like, okay, you're not giving up anything. You're not giving up. It's just at this moment in time, we need to figure something else out. So I think the more you know the people you work with and you are humble about it and understanding, the better it will further your project.
That's a really good lesson. That's really, really wise takeaway.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastically emotionally intelligent of you. I really do want to commend you for that, because coming from a background myself of like high pressure work, and you're expected to be there all the time. You're expected to put out, as much as lip service can be paid to, figure out what's up with people and figure out the problem behind the problem. The people that really stand out in my experience as leaders are the people that even if it takes them a while to get to it, when they come down to it and they're like, all right, like what's the real issue here? And you found out that somebody was afraid of losing their position because they couldn't put out, and you flexed around that. And that's the kind of thing that's going to keep somebody coming back and working with you. That's extremely cool to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And immediately there was an improvement, right? He had less of a workload, but the work that he was doing was incredible. And it was awesome. The kind of work that I knew that he could do. So it's all communication and getting to know people, I really think.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't think a director, there's this vision that the director is, it has to be so strict and is head of everything and makes all the rules and commands and is the last say. That's not true. I feel like being a director is a lot of apologizing.
Yeah.
And just trying to figure little things out and make everyone happy.
Yep.
And do what's best for the picture.
Absolutely.
With a lot of listening. And
absolutely. Yes. Well, Vanessa, I wanted to ask you, and you've kind of touched on it already about your work of understanding humans, but kind of what legacy do you want to leave as a filmmaker and as an actress? Like, what are some of the values and themes that are really important to you? I know you've talked about political satire, which I think is super cool, but tell us more about that.
That's a James Lipton question. Like you're raising the bar for your interview there, Josh. That's a good one.
Thank you.
That was a really good question. You're making me sweat now. Oh my gosh. I guess I've always looked up to women. Like, I've always looked for women to be inspired by as actors, as filmmakers. And I guess that's the legacy that I also want to leave behind. I want to inspire other women I'm also Brazilian, by the way. I don't look it, whatever that look is. But I'm also Brazilian. So like kind of inspiring, the Brazilian women and women in general to believe in themselves and know that they can see women, strong female characters on screen that don't necessarily have to be, I don't know, just beautiful in the sense of like, I have to take off my shirt for the scene so I can win an Oscar, or I have to, certain things like that tend to
It
be put in our
detracts.
mind. Yeah, and because I know starting out as a young actor, I mean, at age 11, I remember them telling us like one day you'll have to be fully nude. Just know that one day, like you'll get
They
a
told you
project.
that at 11?
They told us that one day when you get older, you'll have to be fully nude probably in a movie or a show, but it's the
Wow.
name of the game. You have to do it if you want to be
All right.
at this level, right? And
Wow.
I don't think that's necessarily true.
No, I don't think so.
And I think the game is changing. I
Yes.
see there is a change in Hollywood and stuff like that. So I guess that's
Yeah.
it. And then filmmaking side, I mean, there's such a low percentage of directors or just female filmmakers
Yeah.
in a sense. So
That's got to change. We got to get with the times in Hollywood,
yeah, exactly.
and be progressive. I think Hollywood's always been, because of the entertainment and the role it plays in people's lives, a lot of people it's a benchmark for where we're at as a society and a culture. So we should be more progressive and going even beyond the scope of where things like the status quo. We got to be pushing past it. So I'm really glad that you're in the industry doing that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Carey, I'm all out of questions. Do you have anything? I think, Vanessa, this has been an awesome conversation. You've covered a lot of great stuff.
It really has. Like, I want to get my nerd on for a second when it comes down to like a show that was really good with writing, directing, female characters, the good and evil dynamic, and how it's a lot fuzzier than you think. Vanessa, have you seen the show Arcane on Netflix?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant series the whole way down the line. I wanted to know. All right, you're like one of the first people that's been on the show that's seen that.
I still need to watch it. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it yet. It's on my to-do list.
Your assignment for the night.
Yes.
Now, Vanessa, though, I want to know your thoughts on that, because I have my perspective as somebody who's dealt with mental health issues and amputee. Like, there's a lot of things in there that I thought were very interestingly done from a lot of different nuanced perspectives. I want to know what your thoughts on that were.
I mean, I agree. I think they touched on so many different subjects in such an artistic way, visually and also story-wise. I mean, I've never played, it's League of Legends, right?
I played it like 3 times 10 years ago. So I know it's League of Legends, but like I also walked into it blind. I thought that was something that was really cool. It felt so accessible,
It did. Like, I didn't even have to, I mean, my friends were like, you have to watch this new animated series. It's incredible. And it's so it's heartfelt. Like, I cried. It was so emotional between the two sisters. And but like, yeah, like you said, it's so accessible because you didn't feel like you had to have played the game before to understand it.
No, and there's all this background that's just told visually. Like, it's not all just it's not said. I mean, there was a scene that I had to immediately text my friend Will, just a giant fish dude who's chopping up sushi at a cart. He doesn't have a single word in English. He like grunts something in a non-language, and the characterization that was like funneled into just that scene from visual story elements was fascinating to me.
I've got to watch this show now. I've got to watch it.
Really do, because I think it's a great example of a script that is not over-explained. I think a lot nowadays, especially, I've been watching a lot of like Oscar noms and stuff like that, and I've been finding a lot of movies are just over-explaining. Like, they assume that their audience isn't very smart.
Yeah.
And I think they could have cut probably like 25% of that dialogue and just show it visually in a creative way, like Arcane did.
Yeah. Show don't tell. That's what they say. Yeah. Which is I struggle with that because when I write, I'm very, build the setting, build the descriptions. When I go into screenplays, I'm like, okay, I've got to give action, dialogue, and characters, and leave the rest to be interpreted visually. And it's a hard gear to shift,
It definitely is. Make your action 1 page long.
Yeah.
And then Like at the very bottom, one line.
And they fight.
Well, I just had a thought that would actually, I think might work really cool, because I heard about this in terms of like pitching a story, and I'm sorry for going over. But you know, the classic beat board, the like you've got 60 index cards and it's like supposed to be a
Save the
scene.
cat.
Yeah. Say the cat stuff, and all that stuff. In a pitch, somebody was talking about how instead of actually making castings for their different characters, they made like mood boards, which like any actor or model from any era that would like kind of fit the vibe of this character. So you'd like have like young Denzel Washington and like Lil Nas and like all these guys who like fit the description of the character personality wise. Like I was just thinking about that in terms of like taking the beat board that I've got, and if I'm having trouble visualizing it, like putting like production stills of like Pan's Labyrinth or something up there to be like, this is the vibe that I want for this. And kind of make like a visual representation to like, I'm losing the thread. Yes. Greg Jones in full makeup. I'm back on it. So
I've done that through Pinterest.
Oh,
I'll
nice.
create boards on Pinterest, so I don't have to print it out. And like
that is cool.
Like, these are this is every single character that I'm seeing. This is the setting. So it really does help. I think you should definitely try it.
I always forget, like you're the second like artistic person I've met that has told me that Pinterest is basically that. And now I think I might actually need to like create a sub account that is just like has all the notifications off for that reason, because that does sound like a really useful tool.
It is. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Vanessa, thank you so much for being on Nerds and Friends. This was an awesome episode. Really enjoyed having you here. Great conversation. I'll email you after this to get all your social media links that you want to put in the video description, so we can the fans can follow you. And yeah, this was really awesome.
Thank you. It's been lovely talking to you both.
Thank you.
Miss you,
Absolutely.
Carey.
Hey, Vanessa, we'll talk later.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Have a great day.
You too.
Adios.
Bye.